Oh snap, Jada! I almost called you Kratos.
It's all
It's an
good.
adjustment. Okay,
It's all
so
good.
welcome to the Addict Show, the show where we speak past, present, and future gaming. I got, geez, you've been on every one of these. Well, technically, Addict Show's been around for a long time. It's just I'm trying to make it more of a natural show than just when I feel like it. So got J Dub with me, aka ex Kratos, that's been buried 6 feet under.
Facts.
So what have you been playing, Kratos?
Hey man, today I've been playing some Breath of the Wild, some Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, that's
Been
actually a
playing
topic. It's ironic.
my is it My Friend Pedro or whatever the name of that game
I've
is?
heard that's a good game. I need to
It
really
really
try
is.
it.
It really is, man. Stranger Things 3 on the Switch. And I've been trying to finish Days Gone, man. That game is long as hell. It's a good game. It's a great game, but man, I remember one time we used to complain about games being 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. This game here seems like it's 40 hours to me at least. And I'm talking to friends, and I'm nowhere near complete. And I'm like, geez.
I remember one time I played Fallout 4. I'm very notorious for saying how much I don't like that game. You can play a game you don't like. I just
Yeah.
want to be very apparent there. But I remember playing Fallout 4, and I remember I didn't really. There was this one part where you were doing. I was trying to continue the story with the Brotherhood, and I will never forget. I kept doing these side quests over and over again, thinking they'll end eventually, and they didn't. And I went and checked. They don't end. It's literally fetch quests. I did it for like 2 days, J Dub.
Yep.
So it's easy to fall into stuff like that, especially like a Bethesda game, to where you don't even know what's really going on.
Exactly.
But gonna go ahead and go straight into the show. People will pop in here eventually.
All right.
But let's go straight into the censorship, man. There's been a lot, like a lot of backlash with this Rob Ferguson on. I can't. Did he do it like an article, or did someone interview him and that came out?
I think I don't know if it was necessarily a tweet or if it was an interview, but yeah.
But he said that I think
I thought it was a tweet, or at least I saw a tweet, but I don't know, if it was.
Yeah, and I think this was mainly done for an industry move. I think Rob Ferguson got caught. I don't think he thought this was going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he started trending, because it was trending.
Yeah, it was.
And when it started picking up fire, hate that he has had loved ones that's died from smoking. It's definitely a disgusting habit. I didn't personally have an issue with this. I don't even think it's considered censoring, to be honest with you, because I feel like something that is censored was in the game that they censored out towards the end of the game. I don't think something that was never in the game can be censored. Now, I do think that maybe him pushing his personal beliefs on his product, because it's not necessarily his product. He doesn't own Gears.
That's true.
He's just the lead director on it.
He's paid to direct that game.
So, I think that when it comes to that, I understand why people are upset. And then I'm on the other end. I'm like, yo, this ain't that serious. Let's put the spotlight on. There's no campaign. Let's not talk about smoking. Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you think of this, Jay? Did you think this is a big deal? Did you think that people overblown this, or did you think this is a route, the kind of publicity that they should have got for something like this?
I'm just gonna tell you this, man. It was unnecessary negative publicity around this game. This game launches in a month and a half. They need to be trying to show gameplay of the single player, more gameplay of the multiplayer. We got the beta coming out Friday. Sometimes it's better to just shut up. If they would have never spoke on this, nobody would ever knew. And right now, man, there's a big thing when it comes to censorship, right?
People are really, really
some people
sensitive about censorship.
You got some people that are mad about people scaling back the gore in games or blood or whatever, but then you have also You have to watch it. You have a lot of these weirdos out here masking behind the whole anime outrage, with borderline, pedophile, with some of the stuff that they're angry about. They try to blend in, but you have to watch that. So
I did.
it's a big tricky subject, man, and I'm not really for that type of censorship, but I do understand. Listen, if it doesn't necessarily affect gameplay, I'm all with it. And so the
Now,
cigarettes
how
personally is not a big deal to me, but they made it a big deal and it came off. It came off at the unopportune time.
Now, I had a quick question. How do you feel about the individuals that say stuff like, if you can't be not mad at one type of censorship but not another type? Do you think there are difference? Do you think the
Yeah,
difference is huge, or do you think
there's
you
different.
should have the same energy for all types of censorship?
There are differences, and I'm not going to paint with a broad brush, but there are differences. They just showed a little picture on Twitter. It's, the whole anime thing of the little girl. They showed her one holding a phone, and they saw you can kind of show some of her body parts, and the other one was
I
covered
did
up.
see that was kind of weird.
It's
Like,
weird at the people who are outraged
I
over
was
that.
kind of weird that that anyone would want that on a box art. Like,
Exactly. But more so,
especially Nintendo.
yes. Now I get it, right? Here's the thing about Nintendo. They say they don't censor stuff, but it's only because they don't have stuff in the first place to censor. Think about it. You need a friend code just to add somebody on your friends list. That's a
You
form of
legit got like
censorship.
an admission that you have to do. You have to get the friend code.
Exactly. That's a form of censorship right there. You making people go through hurdles just to do the basic things. They don't have party chat, so guess what? They really don't have any of this stuff. So sure, they can say they don't censor anything because they don't even have the features in the first place.
And let's be real here. Xbox. Yeah, for the most part, when it comes to Xbox, people will respond to you on Twitter. I feel like a lot of the times people should be kept on a leash, not necessarily a leash, but it's like, look, you contact PR if you're going to respond to anything. Because I do feel like sometimes people make comments on Twitter and it makes things worse.
Yep.
And sometimes even Phil Spencer himself has been caught into that. So yeah, I do feel like Microsoft needs to work on that. But then again, you got on the other side of the pond. Sony and Nintendo, since they're Japanese orientated and that's where the bulk of their company is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. There's a language barrier for the majority of that. And even the people that are fluent in English, I feel like they keep them on wraps. Like, look, you're not responding to stuff like that on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I do. We rarely see their devs say anything. We rarely see their unless it's like a planned announcement or planned like event. I don't really see the devs randomly just saying something and then it randomly just gets in the news.
I think what it is, right, and it goes back to what you're saying. I've been saying all generation. Microsoft needs a third-party PR team. They need a PR team, and they're not Phil Spencer, not Aaron Greenberg, not Mikey Barra, not Major Nelson. They need to hire a really, really, really nice PR team because that would have saved them this generation with a lot of the stuff that they were trying.
There is a lot of opportunities that they've missed out on.
Yes, even the basic of stuff. The basic of stuff they flub because of bad PR.
Now, do you think that the PR is more endowed with low funding from that, or do you think that's not necessarily the funding? It's just they don't want to. They're holding on to spending any type of money until next gen.
Listen, it's hard. Say what you want. It is hard for me to give any leniency or benefit of the doubt to the world's most richest company.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. When you have that kind of money,
they have the money. Okay, check this out. Right? What if they take some of that money away from the controller department? Because they seem to have unlimited budget when it comes to controllers. They
just because the controller
every
department, it can refurbish some of that money because you're actually selling a product.
Maybe, but listen, this is the world's richest company, so they'll figure it out.
I agree.
They'll figure it out. Listen, how does Sony and how does Nintendo? How do they deal with it? So you see what I'm saying? You can't. I can't baby these guys. You're making.
And it's like I said,
hand over fist. You deal with it.
I've always said that at the end of the day, what are these people going to market? their games suck this gen. The majority of them aren't that great. They're mediocre. I'm a fan, and I love games like State of Decay. I love games like Recore. I'm one of the few that like Recore. But at the end of the day, when you're having experiences like that, and on the other side of the pond, you're having stuff like Mario Odyssey, you're having stuff like Zelda, you're having stuff like Last of Us, you're having stuff like God of War. It's easier for them to validate giving that kind of money. It's easier to spend that kind of money when you know that you have a product that's enticing, that people are going to actually want to play. Now, I'm not saying that games like State of Decay and stuff are, that no one wants to play them. It's not necessarily what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying from a visual standpoint, people tend to really react to stuff that they see on commercials, that they see on YouTube ads, that looks visually appealing than they would something like you would see like State of Decay. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
And I think that's one of the biggest reasons. If Record looked like Last of Us, I think they would market the hell out of that. There's a reason that they market stuff like Halo, they market stuff like Gears. Now I do think they're probably going to start pushing out Gear stuff, which I think it's a little too late for. Like, it's not late, but I feel like they should have been pushing like a month ago for Gears. But it is what it is.
I just don't understand it. Again, I keep going back to, because this is what most people want to cling on to, is that Microsoft has the money. They have the big wallets. They're the world's richest. How much profits they make. Okay, why are we not seeing all of this moolah, all of this cheddar that they're making? Why are we not seeing that on all the areas? And don't tell me just, okay, they've invested in a couple of, in 3, 4, 5, 6 studios or whatever, because those haven't been big blockbuster studios. They've been smaller indie and AA studios.
And I definitely agree with you. You have to build a studio out. Hopefully, they'll take that talent. They'll increase the talent, put better talent in there. Yeah. It seems like they're doing that. But let's go ahead and put it back just a little bit. Towards the censorship. Now, when it comes to Gears censorship, do you think that the smoking is censorship, A, or B, or do you think that it is censorship, or it's not a big deal, or do you think it's censorship and it might not be a big deal? It's just opening like a door to a bigger issue.
That's the $1 million question. I don't necessarily think it's censorship, but it's borderline censorship based on Rod Ferguson's words. If
I agree,
he would have never spoken, this stuff would have never come to.
It's technically not censorship, because I think you have to have it in the game and censor it to be censorship.
Let me ask
but
you
it
this.
Is low-key censorship if he is not deliberately putting in the game from his personal beliefs. Now, it is his total right to do
in making sure that Gears 4 and this Gears didn't have it. That's what those were his words. So we can't dispute the actual developer. We can't dispute his words. He said it. Now, if he wouldn't have said it, then we wouldn't have no ground to stand up.
And definitely,
And the problem with that, and let me reiterate, the problem with that is this goes at what point that he's a developer for Gears. So let's say Gears 6. Let's say they decide to reboot the franchise. What if something else gets on his mind or in his heart? Or what would happen if he wants to scale back the blood and gore? What happen if he wants to scale back, the cursing? At what point? Again, it could be a gateway, and that's why I'm going to say it's not censorship, but it's borderline censorship.
Now the biggest.
Now let me finish this. Check this out. Now, just because he says that it's not in this game doesn't mean I don't hold much weight on that, because Microsoft, again, we're still asking ourselves, why haven't you even shown the game? So he can say, yeah, it's not even in the game. Well, how do we know? We haven't even seen the game. The game hasn't released. So this goes back to the publicity. If you shut up, nobody can be mad.
So what you're saying is, he said that there's no smoking in the game, which is probably a good chance because there hasn't been smoking in the past few Gears. But you're saying, for all we know, they could have went away from that a little bit, and then they censored that because of this esports organization pushing for it.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to be the PR for right now. All they had to say is, look, we're going to partner. We're partnering with this esports division or whatever, and they have this campaign about non-smoking. And since Gears 4 doesn't have smoking in any way, we thought it was a great idea. So here you go. This is how you perfectly
And I agree with you, because
and
that word,
explain to the people exactly what it is. You're partnering with something that's not even there. So you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're giving them a product that they can display, and they can display your product. Everyone can be happy. You've explained it. But now Rod Ferguson goes on. Well, my dad died when I was 4 of a heart attack, and linked that to cigarettes, and now it's like, oh my God, like, can we stop it? Now it becomes a
it's made
SJW
it personal.
thing. Yeah, it's like,
Now
okay,
it feels like you're not doing it because of this. Now it
exactly.
feels like you're doing it because of personal
Yes.
issues.
Yes. And now, now when you have a developer that's making a game that you're anxiously, looking forward to, what if the developer says, you know what, my kid stubbed his toe on the wall and it's bleeding, and so now we're gonna take, I don't like the sight of blood, I'm gonna take blood out of the game. Now, again, it's a gateway. It leads to all of these interpretations, and okay, what's next? That leads directly into that type of censorship. And don't get me wrong, not all censorship is bad. Not all censorship is bad.
And I agree with you. Like we were saying earlier, there was a censorship with the. It was weird. It was like flowers that covered certain areas of that girl,
Yes.
and then the PlayStation version had the flowers coming all the way down, and the Switch version only had it in the middle.
But let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this: if that's the cover of the game, and this is why I say, right, this Nintendo Switch game, if this the cover of the game, and you're buying your kid this game, and you go and look at that cover, you're gonna be like, what the hell? That directly sticks out. Now I'm starting to question the developer of the game or the artist who created that cover. Seriously? Oh, now we're just gonna have camel toes just right there in front and center, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, it
Come on.
looks spooky, man. Like
doing?
one thing that I wanted to point out, like, people were comparing this censorship of smoking to the censorship that happened in Devil May Cry 5, where the glare was a little bit more on one copy than the other. Yeah. Like, I personally don't think these are even two similar scenarios.
It's not,
like, PlayStation, they did censor that.
Yeah, and then they instantly walked it back and removed the censorship of it. So you're right, they did. Censored it.
I'm completely now. If you want to have the same energy for one as you have in the other, I'm okay with that. Yeah. You have an issue with the smoking that was took out because of Rob Ferguson's personal opinion on smoking, and then you have Sony censoring it for did they even come out with a statement saying the reason they censored it?
Nope.
So I'm okay with that. Yeah. But you can't. I don't really think people can compare the two. What it is console war stuff. People want to be able to attack one over the other,
and that's why the whole cigarette thing became a bigger deal than what it really was. It's because of that. But I'm not gonna lie, there's more to the story than that, right? Because some people have noticed Gears used to be called Gears of War. Now they, once they changed, they took the of war out. So now people are left to speculate, oh well, now they're against the war, they want to make the profits on the product, but necessarily they don't want. I don't know, man. I'm only stating what we've seen and heard on YouTube and Twitter. So now you come up with the cigarettes. Now you're semi-censoring cigarettes. Well, what's next? And then another big deal is, okay, well, Rod Ferguson, if that really pulled on your heartstrings, what about the millions of parents who've lost kids to gun violence? Now you're marketing and you're creating a game where you can stump somebody face in, you can cut the head off, you can do all kind of gory stuff. How can cigarette be more damaging to a kid's health or psychic versus blowing somebody's brains out? I don't get that. So that's why it was
in the negative
publicity that made no freaking sense.
And the funny thing
made no sense
is they didn't even have to. This could all have been avoided if they would have just didn't even comment on. Which you can't really blame Rod Ferguson for commenting on the statement when he was asked it, but at the same time, like, you should have left it at that. Like, look, like, I don't personally think they should have said nothing. They should have kept it at that. But if you wanted to roll with that scenario, you could have been like, look, esports is very important to Gears, and it's very important to our Gears fans as a whole.
Thank you.
And we took that decision. Obviously, right now, there's no smoking in this game at all. We haven't had it since Gears 2. He could even put, he's like, I'm not really a big fan of smoking, so I wasn't really opposed to not putting smoking in the game. But esports is more important to our fans than smoking is to our fans. Yeah. So we decided to partner with them to do this promotion so we could have this promotion. And that's where I feel like the disconnect was, because he made it seem like it was in the game, but it wasn't in the game. So he made it seem like it was took out of the game because of this. And that's my biggest issue, is I feel like he could have had better wording, which, you know, he's been doing this for a while. I feel like he should have known. He should have known better. Yeah. People will blow up over every little thing. I don't think this is something to even remotely get upset about, but people will blow up over every little thing. And sometimes you got to watch what you say on Twitter. And I don't think he did.
Listen, this is why I said they need to hire an outside PR company. And I'm going to tell you why. As much as people like hearing Phil Spencer, Major Nelson, Mikey Barra, Aaron Greenberg, as much as people like the access to them on social media, I think it's not a good deal. They have too much access. And then, therefore, every single word, you know as well as I know, every single word and sentence they say is critiqued, construed, and it's interpreted to whoever is reading it. So and to be fair to them, right? That's not really, it's not really unfair, but at the same time, they're company executives. It's their job to know these things. So they shouldn't put themselves in that particular predicament. Hire an outside PR person and just let that speak for you, and they'll handle it the best way possible. It's been working for Nintendo. It's been working for Sony. It's been working for other people. But just using those 4 to 5 guys to do the talking, man, stop saving the money. Go and hire you somebody who does this. They can be your social media spokesperson. They know how to word the stuff.
And you know what's funny, man? Like, even if they didn't want to spend the millions and millions of dollars on like a big marketing firm, like, there's people in place that can help them more than they're doing. Like, YouTubers. They actually make content for consumers, the people you sell this shit to. Like, they know how they wired. I'm not saying put it all on YouTube, because that's obviously, you know, I've worked at Dish Network. I know that TV is becoming obsolete, but right now TV is still relevant, just depending on what you're doing.
That's correct.
Instead of spending all the types of money on, you know, regular advertising, they need to center it. They need to go for the Monday Night Footballs, because that's where the people actually watch. They need to go to the big events like the Super Bowl, Walking Dead, you know, big giant TV shows like that, because that's the demographic that you're really aiming for anyway.
Yeah, and you know, Microsoft used to be the king of that. They used to get all the Super Bowl games, all the NFL on the sidelines. All you saw was the Surface. All you saw was Xbox commercials. That's all you saw, and they just, I guess,
it just doesn't seem like they care. Like, it really doesn't. And you know, we went to. It's like I told people when I was at E3. I was just like, look, like, I'm not saying I'm pretty sure, about 80% sure that Microsoft's got some good stuff in the line, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, how much more time are we gonna give people?
That's true. That's true.
Like, what, 2 years almost?
Yep.
So, but you know, it is what it is. I understand. Going through the drastic change that Microsoft went at the beginning of the gen, it's not something that's easily turned around. I feel like, you know, people that just want them to come out, we have games that are just, you know, they're 4 or 5 years. That is not PR. PR is never going to let them say shit like that. But, you know, definitely go ahead and give a last statement on censorship. Do you think censorship is ruining gaming, or do you think that, you know, it's overblown? What do you think about censorship as of right now in gaming?
Nah, censorship is being overhyped. It's not ruining. Listen, we've had a ton of great games this year, last year, this generation. It's okay. Nobody's gonna die because you can't see a small bit of cleavage, you little perverts. It's okay.
You go to Pornhub, man. It's right there.
Exactly. Hey, It is what it is, man. But again, we also have to be careful of people hiding behind censorship, and they have nefarious motives. Um, especially with the way the world is now. These guys try to hide into the gaming community, but they're really pedos and stuff like that, and perverts that hang around and try to use that movement to stop the censorship of stuff that should be censored.
So, going away from the censorship thing a little bit, I've kind of felt like after Luigi's Mansion was announced, it's like Octoberish or something like that. It finally got a release date, so I kind of figured it was going to be a 2020 game, but it got a release date. I'm kind of wondering why they didn't release the release date at E3. It's not a big difference. It's like a month. And maybe there was some variables that they didn't know about. They didn't want to give an indefinite date, so they wanted to wait to see about those kind of variables.
Yeah.
But with the new game that's coming out this month, which is what's that game with the emblem, Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem.
You got that. You got that whack game from Platinum next month. I don't even remember what that shit's called.
Astro Chain.
Astro Chain. You got obviously Mario Maker that's already came out. You got the Pokemon coming out at the end. You got the not Luigi's Mansion, but Zelda coming out. Yeah. I think it's August. So do you think, as of right now, we know, you're a little bit biased to which PlayStation, a little bit.
Just a snippet.
Just a little bit.
Snippet.
Do you think that Nintendo's got the best 2019 of all the platforms?
No.
No. You have to explain that to me. Why do you not think that they have the best out of all the platforms?
Let me explain this. Okay.
From a first-party standpoint.
Well, from a first-party standpoint, yeah. Well, yes, it should say first-party, but I mean, we're talking about games here, and if we're going to talk about exclusives to the platform, then that would be no. With Sony, I mean, this is the half of the year. Sony still have a ton of bangers that are coming out. A lot of VR content, a lot of first-party content. They're still cranking out. I mean, we just had Judgment to drop a few weeks ago. That's an exclusive to the platform. We still have Iron Man. We still have Medieval, Death Stranding, ton of other games that they've announced. We have China Joy game conference coming in. We just had Tokyo show. They announced a bunch of new games from there. So there's just a lot of content out there, and it's actually so much. It's hard to keep up with this stuff. You just keep seeing the wallet get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're like, geez, when am I ever going to get a chance to complete a lot of these games? But you don't want to get left behind. So
I don't. Okay, even from a third-party standpoint, there's not really a lot coming out this year. Like, to be a real,
okay,
I don't think that the games are bad. I just think that you don't have that heavy hitter. Like, no one has it. Maybe Death Stranding's that heavy hitter.
I mean, listen.
But I consider Death Stranding a big-ass fucking red question mark. I'm not going to say it's going to be bad. I'm going to say it's going to be good.
Listen, it's the track record, right? What's the lowest rated Kojima game? I mean, all those Metal Gears got in the 90s. So
that was different management.
Listen, I get it. Probably even better now, right? He's with a better team now than he was when he.
I low-key think Kojima deserves to be in a straitjacket. Like, I really do. I think
he probably does, but
you walk in his room, there's crown all over the walls, and all kinds of weird language. Like, that's the.
Hey, sometimes weird works. Being weird gave us Metal Gear series, which you're
right. The weird thing does work. Look at that. Look at Stranger Things. That's a weird show. It's a hit.
And it's a hit. You're right. I mean, but think about if they would have been able to complete Silent Hills.
Oh, I would have liked that.
They did with PT. That little 5-minute demo scared the shit out of you. So you imagine what they would have did with Silent Hills. I don't know, man. When you have a mastermind like that, and you have an unlimited budget, and you have other talent that he's able to select, you have great hardware, you have a great engine. There's no L there. Like, if Death Stranding is an L, if it comes out to be an L, I would be very surprised. Because he didn't have all the resources that he needed when he was at Konami, let alone now. So now he's in charge of his own stuff. But
Now, if
But
you think, let's say that this game comes out and it's a smashing hit,
yes,
do you think Sony might buy Kojima Productions?
I don't. I'm gonna tell you why. Kojima is with Sony. He's not going anywhere. Remember, before he came over to the Sony team, he looked, he interviewed, he talked with Microsoft. They wanted him. He talked with other studios and other companies. They wanted him. But he came over to Sony and he said, look, it just made sense. I've been making games with these guys forever. The chemistry's there, the money's there. You know, they roll out the red carpet for me. I got everything I want. They're not standing over my back, forcing me to do something. And look, he was able to crank this game out within 3 years. I mean, how long did we have to wait for a freaking Metal Gear with Konami? Much longer than 3 years. So again, when you have everything going for you and everything is kind of there, and you that chemistry is there, it doesn't take you a long time. And he's having fun with this stuff. This is his baby. This is his game. And you know, it wouldn't shock me if this game comes out scoring and being better than Metal Gear.
All right, so
Only because of the things that I've named, I've labeled before you. Now, again, Metal Gear has been out since we were little kids. So obviously, it's not like I'm just throwing that in the toilet. I'm just saying, well, if the guy were able to make bangers for decades, now he has his own stuff and unlimited access to everything. Now he should be even, be able to take it a step higher. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely understand. I go ahead and pull it back just a little bit before we end up talking about Sony for 30, 40 minutes. But, as terms of the best stuff that's coming out this year, if obviously I think we can both agree, if you consider everything third party, all the stuff the Switch doesn't get, is definitely an L. Like, there's no denying that. You're not playing Checker over there. You're not playing any of the big games. Anything that's really come out this year, you're not playing over there. Now, they are getting a lot more third-party stuff, but it's a huge fidelity in the graphics. It's most of the time it runs 30 frames. Did Rage 2 come out on the Switch? I'm thinking it. No, it did.
Listen.
All right. So
you just made an excellent point. Can you give Nintendo now? Listen, I'm not gonna lie. Nintendo has been undefeated, right, for 35 years when it comes to its first party IP. They make good games. Yes, they're rehashed. Yes, it's the same IP. Yes, it's the same characters, but you don't feel like you've been robbed when you buy the game. And this has been going on for 35 years. So I give them credit for that.
So you feel like someone came up there, put a gun to your face and was like, give me your shit.
Right? So it's just, I mean, Nintendo, they make good games. They make games that work. They're not broken. But on the flip side, the majority of the gamers these days, I mean, you got to realize they're focusing on a different demographics. You don't have a lot of people crying, hey, man, where's my Call of Duty? Where's my Madden? Where's my Battlefield? Where's my Division? Where's all of these big blockbuster games that everyone's playing on the other consoles? They're not really asking for that from the Nintendo. And Nintendo is not offering it. Yes, they get a game here, a couple of 360 games here, stuff like that. It doesn't run well. It doesn't look well. So most of it go ignored, but it's something that they offer. But they do have to take a big knock for not offering what everybody else is playing right now.
All right,
if
so
everybody right now is playing Call of Duty, and that platform is competing with the rest of the platforms for dollars, then they should offer it. And
so just out of curiosity, okay, let me play the devil's advocate a little bit.
All right.
You yourself, you're all J-Dub, you're always on Twitter.
Yes.
And you're saying exclusives are key, and exclusives sell consoles, and exclusives are the end all be all. So if you take the third party out of it and you just count the reason people buy a console, now third parties are important. Yes. Third parties, the Call of Duties, the 2Ks, the Maddens, they're extremely important. And I think to a point, third party sells consoles just as much as first party. Because when you see a console, when you see a commercial, and you see that a game such as Big, and then you see at the end of it, PlayStation. Now it does not say on there it's exclusive on PlayStation, but there's a reason that they put that logo at the end of that commercial, because they want to connect your mind to that game, that it's linked to that console.
That's true.
So if you just take it from a first party perspective,
do
you think Switch has the better year? Oh, you can't even give it that, man.
Okay, so I would say I would give the edge to Nintendo.
Okay,
I would.
so out
Well,
of
I would,
do
but you
you
know
have
what?
a Switch right now?
Yes, I do.
What games are you
Last year I
looking
would have
for?
reversed that decision.
Oh yeah, last year was horrible for the Switch.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Okay, so if you take it right now, what are the games that you want to play on the Switch that you think about picking up day one? Now, I don't want none of these games. You like, oh, I might pick it up. It might happen. I want the games that you see on that commercial, like that's day one.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
are those games?
What games I would like to play on the Switch?
I'm talking about first party that's coming out this year.
Oh, all of the games that you named. I mean, like the remake of Zelda.
You gonna play Pokemon?
I'm on it. No, I'm not a Pokemon guy. Yeah, that was not my generation. I'm not a Pokemon guy. But I do have it on my console now. But
yeah, and a lot of people tend to really. I don't know how this next Pokemon game is going to be. I'm a little excited for Luigi's Mansion 3 because I was a real big fan of the first one.
Anticipated game this year, bar none.
And then I'm really excited for Fire Emblem because I really like that tactical advantage. Let me go ahead and take one of these. How many first-party games do you think Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox release next year between them? Now, what do you mean, Tiger? Do you mean like, do you think though how many games they'll release next year?
Listen, Nintendo is going to release what we've always been.
I don't know for some reason.
A new Mario, a new Zelda, a new. I mean,
I think we'll get maybe. I don't think next year is going to be this year. I think we'll get Zelda at the end. Mm-hmm. But usually when Nintendo shoots all they shots of one year, and the next year it's shit.
That's true.
And then the year after that, they shoot all they shot again. The next year it's shit. But they always capitalize because Nintendo has a lot of good games coming out this year. But I don't think they have a blockbuster. They have a lot of good games, but they don't have a Zelda or a Mario Odyssey. They don't have something on that caliber. They just got a bunch of right hooks and they don't got that haymaker knock the dude out. Yeah. Next year they'll have that. They'll have the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and I think that with maybe two or three more games, and they'll open the dam for indies like they do every year. Mm-hmm. And I think that will carry them next year because people will literally, by then, it's going to outsell the Xbox. Theoretically, if the Switch does what it does now, it's going to outsell the PS4. But we'll have to see how they do towards like the end of the gen with the Switch. Technically, you can't even really compare them because the Switch is the gen after the PS3 and Xbox.
The Switch is a ninth generation. Remember the Wii U. They closed up shop. They gave up on the generation, quick, and they said, you know what, we're moving on. Sorry.
But in terms of games, I think Xbox and PlayStation, they're gonna have like 1 to 2 exclusives on launch with their next consoles.
I agree. At least I hope, because you got to think about it, right? You have the new Scarlet coming,
and a bunch of third-party shit.
So we know we're gonna get Halo Infinite with that. We might as well say we'll get Fable.
I don't think Fable's coming out. I think Fable comes out the year after.
Jeez, man.
I think we'll see
maybe Forza.
Yeah, I think we'll see Forza.
So we'll see Halo Infinite, and we'll see Forza Motorsports 8.
And if they were smart, Forza 8's going to be the best looking game on next gen.
Yeah, but it's always a good looking game.
But at the end of the day, they need something. It doesn't matter how Rise was an okay game. It wasn't a great game by any means, but it showed what that console can do.
Yeah, it looked beautiful. It was
I don't know if we're gonna have a difference like we did for the 360 and the Xbox One, because I don't think that's gonna happen. But I do think that Halo has to come out looking fucking phenomenal. I think if Halo comes out,
it has to show the power of that console. It has to stand out.
It doesn't just have to do that. It's got to be a good game.
Yes.
Like that game needs to come out, needs to look amazing. It needs to recapture that audience that abandoned the Halo 5 and Halo 4 community. It needs to recapture that Halo 3 multiplayer experience. It needs to have a solid campaign. And I think with that, it's like I said, Xbox is not out of the game. They just got to make good games. If you make good games, people will overlook every shit you've done for the past 15 years.
Thank you. I'm glad someone is mimicking what I've been screaming this whole generation.
Look,
Your mistakes will be forgiven the moment you drop that
you know
bomb.
what I honestly think is the high definition that made Sony where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us last gen.
Yes.
When The Last of Us came out, now they've started building that relationship back up with their fans. But when Last of Us came out, it was literally like, you know, Halo used to have like the big cannon that would shoot at Sony when Halo came out, when Microsoft did. But when that Last of Us came out, it's like Microsoft's like, we got shit for that, man. Like we're handing you this one because we got nothing. And I think that The Last of Us was such a good thing to end that system on.
On a high note.
And you got to think the last couple of years, Microsoft didn't really have shit. So, you know, you go at the end of a gen, you're at the beginning. Now, I do think that they had if they would have had a better reveal, I think it would have went a lot better for them. But I still think that there's a good chance that it wouldn't be like it is now.
Hey, 20 million copies is nothing to sneeze at for an exclusive.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like it is now. I honestly feel like Sony
let's face it, The Last of Us, right? Because of that game that they made last year, because of that one IP, Part 2 has a cult following. I mean, people when they show it, people cry, they fall out, they faint. I mean, it's just think about it, man. I'm and I'm going to tell you this real quick. I'll be real quick. I remember it was, I believe, PSX. A few years back when they showed The Last of Us 2, when they showed, and it was kind of like an experience. Me and my whole family was sitting on the couch and we was watching it. I had the surround sound up and everything. You know, Sony event, got to do it big. And we start seeing what was this game, and I was like, man, what is this game? And then my daughter said Firefly, and the moment she said Firefly, we both started screaming. Like we got up, we were jumping and yelling and screaming. We knew it was The Last of Us. And I think there was, shout out to Tiger King. He did say PSX 2016. Yeah, you're right. And we saw that Firefly. And they didn't, I mean, it was just the camera kind of pan in like the wooded area and stuff like that. That was enough to just, I mean, it would have made me forget any and everything. That moment there is solidified in time for millions of people who are fans of this particular game and this particular franchise.
And you know what I want to do is use that to kind of bridge our way to the next topic, because I don't think there's really a whole lot we could talk about Nintendo anymore. Yeah. Now, I feel like this gen would have been a lot better if Microsoft did what Sony is with the next topic is that Final Fantasy exclusive to PS4. Now, I think this is way bigger than people are making it out to be. This is probably one of the most hyped games that's ever been in existence. I would say to the JRPG crowd is just as big as something like Last of Us 2.
Yes.
Because this is literally the game that without this game, I don't know where JRPGs would be. Yep. It would still be a decent genre, but I don't think it would have evolved as quick as it did, because people wanted to mimic Final Fantasy when it came out.
Exactly.
And it's just like the Call of Duty. I think there's certain games in history that without them, gaming wouldn't be the same. I do think Call of Duty is one of them.
I agree.
I think Halo's one of them. Right now, as much as I hate to say it, J-Dub, I think Fortnite's one of them.
You're right, man. You're right. Fortnite will sum this generation up for shooters.
And I think Minecraft's one of them. I think Minecraft gave that indie vibe that's like, look, you don't have to be a AAA title to knock out these AAA people.
Hey man, any game that has hundreds of millions of people playing it has an asterisk by its name in the history books of gaming.
But when it comes to MMOs, without World of Warcraft, where would the MMO genre be?
Yep.
So when it comes to that,
what would racing be without Gran Turismo?
Forza probably wouldn't be around.
Yep.
I think when it comes to standpoint like that, I think Final Fantasy VII being exclusive to PS4, I don't care what Microsoft didn't do or what they did do. I don't want to hear no excuses on, exclusivity, what was sold on Xbox. There is a way. I guarantee you, if there could have been stuff that's rewritten in time and history, Microsoft could have did something to get this game on their platform. I just don't. I find it hard to believe that a multi-billion-dollar corporation let this game slip through their fingers, and they had no hope whatsoever, and they couldn't do anything at all to capture this game on their platform. Now, I don't care if it's a timed exclusive, because unlike Microsoft, Sony's like, you ain't telling anyone about this shit until the NDA's up and you're allowed to by law.
Until our time is over. I agree.
Microsoft lets people like, oh, Tomb Raider, it's not even out. You could tell the whole world that it's coming on PlayStation next year.
The very next day. And people just held off for a year. Dude.
Now, what I want to ask you, J-Dub,
let's go.
Was this a mistake? I feel like there's something they could have done. Maybe it was money wise. Maybe Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Just came to the Xbox platform.
Yeah.
Well, 8's not there yet, but it's coming. So there is no way in hell that this damn game could not have been on the platform. Maybe if you look at it from the standpoint, I think it went a Tomb Raider direction. I think originally it was a timed exclusive, and then Sony came in and just stamped it. It was like, this is our shit. Because originally it was first on PlayStation. That slogan's no longer used anywhere on their marketing.
Yeah.
So they clearly got that exclusive.
Yep.
So what do you think with this situation?
Okay. Do I think it's a mistake? I'm going to be honest with you, right? I don't think it's a mistake by Microsoft. And I'm going to tell you why. As much as people would love this game to sing to the high heavens on the X, let's face it, these games, specifically this type of game, this genre, has not played out so well in the past with the consumer. So Microsoft probably weighed their option. Look, we're going to have to pony up $50 million to get this game on our platform. We have 40 million people in our ecosystem. And how many of those people will actually go out and support this game? If they don't really support the racers, the shooters, to the capacity that we need them, why would I shell out $50 million to grab some of this piece of the pie? Now, again, I do believe that was Microsoft's strategy. They thought about it. They said, well, we'd rather take that $50 million and we would rather invest that into some more studios, or get down the line, we'll get another marketing of a game or something like that. So it was a smart business. It was a smart financial move, but it was a dumb mistake when it comes to the console, because you got to think about it. It does make, as an Xbox gamer, I do feel like my console is being left behind, because across the road, these guys have these nice graphical games, and I don't get that. I'm not going to get that. And even if I get it, it'll be a year later. These guys are going to stream it. They're going to, it's going to be worn out. So by the time it comes to us, nobody's going to care.
My big thing is, it's not necessarily on a business standpoint. It's not necessarily on, any type of marketing standpoint, what it would sell. I'm thinking more of a social standpoint. Right now, the Xbox, it just doesn't sell stuff. It doesn't sell JRPGs as well. Monster Hunter did like 1/4 what it did. It still sold over 1 million, but on PlayStation it sold like 8 million, and on Xbox sold like 1.5 to 2 million.
Yeah.
So it's
wait. And before someone jumps in with that, well, they have 100 million users, 100 million gamers. It should have said more than that. You got to realize, right?
A lot of people buy 2 consoles.
There's a reason that they're at 100 million. You got to keep that same energy. What's the reason Microsoft's Xbox has 40 million? You got to keep that same energy, right? We got to keep that same energy. Now, Witcher 3 sold, I believe, like 40-something% on the PlayStation, and the rest on PC. And then I believe the Xbox got like 10% or something, like some small mega.
The Witcher's one thing, because I do think it was purely, when it comes to a game like Witcher, The Witcher is just a great game. Like, I do think there are certain titles that exceed logic, because The Witcher is just bought by everyone, because everyone loves that damn game, except for me. I bought it and I still ain't beat it. I still ain't really played it. I do think some of Bethesda's games, like Skyrim, exceeds that. Zelda exceeds that. Only reason if you don't have Zelda is you don't have a Switch. If it was multi-plat, you would have Zelda.
That's true.
So
listen, Nintendo's IPs, right? This Nintendo they're in a league of their own. Their first party games tend to sell 1-to-1. The Marios, the Zeldas, all the big games for every console, that game is sold. Zelda, they sold more copies of Zelda than they sold of Switch at the time. That means someone went out and bought the game in anticipation of getting their hands on the Switch. That's how crazy Nintendo
buying 2 copies of it.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest issue I have with this is right now you're showing Japanese developers. We don't even think your content is worth going after.
Yes.
You're showing Japanese developers. We're not. It's not necessarily we won't support your content. Our fans probably won't because we don't give them the best of the best. We just give them the Scrabble that's in JRPGs. Yes. And then when they buy that and they think that's a great JRPG, which I'm not really giving any names. I'm just saying the C-rated JRPGs that people play because they enjoy the A-rated ones.
Yeah.
You're not giving them the A-rated ones. We're not getting the Final Fantasy. We're not getting the Dragon Quest. So people don't even look for this genre on the platform.
Look at Judgment, right? Just think about it this way, right? And I keep telling people, a lot of this stuff is not Sony spending money to get it. It's coming to their platform by default because those developers look on the other side and say, well, Microsoft is not even interested in it.
Now, I do think Final Fantasy is not
interested in it, so we're not going to put extra money and extra development time to port a copy over to their platform.
And, I'm just look, when you don't give your fan base the good shit,
yes,
they're not going to buy the B and C rated shit.
Yes.
Because they bought the C rated shit and they deemed the whole genre shit. And then they won't buy any more of that franchise. Yep. And then you give them Final Fantasy VII Classic. They play that shit. It was like, yo, this looks rough. I'm gonna wait for the remake. Oh, that's on PlayStation. Yep. I'm gonna buy PlayStation. And then when the Final Fantasy VII, let's say it does come out, it's a timed exclusive, it's a year, comes out on Xbox, just bombs on sales because it was a year late.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Square Enix is like, yo, we shouldn't have even done that shit. We shouldn't have even released it on the Xbox. Just so 10 units.
Listen, the worst part of Final Fantasy not being on the Xbox is the Xbox guys, they want a great graphically demanding looking game so it can sing on the X. And guess what? They're not even getting it. Even third party is not giving it to them. So this would have been a great opportunity to showcase what the X can do versus what the Pro can do. And Sony snatched that reality right out of their hands and said, this is exclusive.
And I think that's just my biggest issue. I'm a huge fan of this genre. That's one of the reasons you have people like Mistwalker leaving the whole industry and going mobile because they can't sell their product.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just like, if you would be more open to stuff like this, there's got to be a reason Dragon Quest isn't on here. There's got to be a reason Persona's not on here. There's too many JRPGs that's not on Xbox. Why is it no one ever bringing this shit up? When these great games, something like Persona, you get a bunch of Xbox fans. They're like, yo, JRPGs are the shit. Persona was fire. What else is in this genre? But then they play something like DC Dagger. I don't even know what the fuck that's a game, but they play that. It was like, yo, this is really bad. Like, why do the Japanese even make games?
Why, like you said, why do we get the C list of games and those guys over there touting, all the good ones, they're hoarding it for themselves. But that, unfortunately, I'm gonna be honest, man, that has been the cloud over Xbox's head. Now, do you think the reason it's like that is because the last few generations, Xbox has kind of shoehorned itself into being the dude bro shooter box? Either it's the racer or the shooter. You keep getting these over and over. So if you don't give your base a bunch of variety,
see the thing,
they're only going to look forward to the shooters and the racers.
Is if they're not going to go after marketing rights, that they need to make sure damn well the game's at least on their platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Final Fantasy VII would sell decent on Xbox if they grabbed the marketing rights.
Yeah.
If that was on every commercial Xbox at the end. I think they had one of them. Didn't they have 15's marketing rights? Final Fantasy 15?
They did, and that game sold bananas on the PlayStation.
See, but it's sold better than it would have without the marketing rights.
Listen,
and I'm just like,
okay, to your agreement. Sometimes it's not about the sales; it's the mind share that gets people to say. Listen, every week Sony comes out, either they're advertising or they're showing some new game that's coming. Whether it's a small indie title, whether it's a JRPG, or whether it's a big blockbuster game, right? They're showing something. Whether it's VR or whatever, it's always something. Their name is always in the news, synonymous with games. All these games.
And I agree with you.
With Xbox,
and
it's not the same.
Talis said, he's like, I find it funny nowadays. Say, why isn't RPGs on Xbox? When it wasn't a long time ago, Xbox fans were saying we don't give a damn about RPGs. Sony can have them, and I agree with you. I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, on the flip side, Talis. On the flip side, last generation. Remember, Xbox was the indie box, and then PlayStation guys said they don't give a damn about indie box. And this generation is swapped.
I just wish that I'm not saying that Microsoft's not taking the JRPG market seriously. I do think that they're trying to build a better relationship there. Now, as much as I hate to say this, we are America. We did drop a bomb on them, so that might there might be a lot of bad blood even to this day. Because listen,
money.
Dude, I know people.
Money
talks, but there's a lot of people over there that have such aggression towards Americans because of our past that they won't even have that conversation.
Listen. There is not one Japanese person that said, "I hate these guys so much. I'm not going to take their money."
Have you been to Japan?
I haven't yet.
My man Jansen went there, and he says there's a lot of shit like that going on over there. Now it's not so much of the younger crowd, but a lot of the older generation do feel that way.
Okay. So let me ask you this then: if that's the case, right? If that's the case, what's the excuse from Xbox guys not buying their own games?
Oh, dude, I don't know why. Like
Forza 7. Pretty much flopped. It's so I believe
ain't nobody plays simulation games like that anymore. It's just how it is.
I'm the racing guy. That's what I do. That game was not bad. The guys just did not show up for it. Whereas on the flip side, Gran Turismo Sport was getting shit because of the lack of content, lack of offline play and stuff like that. And that game sold 8 million plus copies. So it shows a huge disparity. Let's go back to the shooters. Xbox is known for being a shooter box. Majority of the shooting games, especially third party, this generation sold way.
I think like 3 years ago, maybe even 4. It was at a time PlayStation had like 20-30 million more, and they were almost half and half on one of the Call of Duties.
Yeah.
So it sells well. It does, and I'm not really saying that there's a large portion of the Japanese people that have this thought process, but I'm saying there are some in power that do, and you have to go 100% of the way because they're not even coming 10.
Well, okay. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, right? And only because if I'm a developer and I have a Japanese game, I'm looking at 100 million install base at Sony and a fan base that typically buys those type of games. So I'm good. I'm going to put all my goose eggs in that one, right? But now you're telling me, okay, spend 10 to 15 to 20 million of my own money to hire a team to port this over to the Xbox, whereas historical fact says this thing is going to sell maybe 200 million copies at most.
And I think that maybe Microsoft should make a whole development team that specializes in porting for Japanese games and offer to use them.
Why won't they buy Bluehole? They're known for porting games.
And I think that's one of the things that would help it. Now, I don't think that we'll ever get a 1-for-1 in relations with Microsoft and the Japanese developers, because I do think that for different variety of variables, they tend to stick to themselves in a lot of scenarios. They don't believe in people in the States think that what their culture is and shit. They live and die by that shit. So you have that scenario. Once again,
They do take pride in their companies, so they don't.
an
Very
American company can't
very
even buy
rare
a
that they
Japanese
sell their
company without the Japanese
yeah,
approval.
but money.
Oh, it does. It does. And I think when it comes down to it, I think Sony has a lot of relationships with them because they're over there and they're native to each other. They probably interact with each other a lot more because you don't have to you don't have to travel 3,000 miles to have a dinner with them. So I think that might have saved to do with it. Some of these people probably grew up with each other. They're in a native place where they've probably worked with each other, switching back and forth between companies. I think there's a countless variety of factors. The fact that the West doesn't buy as much of their games as their own native people do, so that could mean things.
But to be fair, the Japanese don't really buy many PlayStation items either.
They don't.
They're mobile. They're mobile. They like the small cell phone games. They like the Switch. Obviously, is kicking ass over there. So it's not like it's just that big of a lopside. Yes, I get it.
I think the Switch has already outsold the PS4 in
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah. So I mean, so that play. It's a bunch of factors that play there. But just because let's say a territory may be biased, money talks. If Microsoft walks in with a bag of with a bag of cash saying, hey, look, we're ready to embrace what we haven't done in the past, let's go, I believe Phil probably did that, and that's why we're able to get
I think
Final
that's why we're
Fantasy.
seeing stuff like Star Citizen and stuff on the console, and I think that's a good step in the right direction. But out of all the games that they drop the ball and don't find a way to have a center of messaging to get this game, this one content, this one app on our platform, they drop it with Final Fantasy VII, which is probably like the pinnacle to JRPGs.
Yes.
Like, if there's any game that they went after, it should have been this.
Yes.
Because this game could open up so many doors.
This would have, I'm not going to lie, this would have given Xbox a new base that they didn't know they had. And to tell you the truth, a lot of people go with PlayStation just for the mere fact. If you're a JRPG guy, what platform are you going to choose? You're going to choose Sony. You're going to choose the PlayStation just by default. Not that you weren't interested in the Xbox. It's just by default they didn't offer you what Sony could. So I would like to see next generation. I would like to see Phil and those guys at Microsoft to close that gap.
I feel like that the biggest thing we need is an exclusive that's AAA, A-rated, great as hell.
Exclusives anymore, sir. I'm sorry.
But no, I'm not talking. It could be on PC. I'm talking about something that's in that ecosystem that shows them what that genre is about. And we had it last gen with Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon.
Yeah,
we had it with multiple games, but this year they completely stopped it for almost half the generation.
Yeah,
and I think if they came out and they bought Mistwalker and Lost Odyssey 2 is in development, that would give a lot of people a lot of hope when it comes to that genre. And I think a well-written, well-developed Lost Odyssey 2 would give the modern JRPGs a run for their money. But they don't make decisions like that.
Well, right now Microsoft has the attitude where we want you to play your games any and everywhere. Just have fun. It doesn't matter. They have that philosophy. So I think maybe that culture there goes into a lot of the reason why Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't go to the Xbox. But imagine, right, having that thing, how good it would. When we saw the game, it was running on the Pro.
Yeah.
Imagine how this game would look on the Scarlet.
I don't want this to happen. But the only good scenario, and it's not a good scenario for me, it's a shitty scenario for me, but the only good scenario for Microsoft is FF7 Remake flops. Because then they're like, see, that's the reason we didn't have it on the Xbox.
Yeah, but we know that.
Listen,
even if this game is
this game's going to be 8 just off default.
It's already sold. Listen, I already bought the freaking $300 collector's edition. All right, people, that thing sold out like hotcakes. This game has already sold 10 million. It has 10 million written all over it. It just from the name alone with no review score. So it's I just don't see that happening. Plus, it's Square Enix. They have a I'm not going to say they're the best, right? but they do have somewhat of a
They
quality.
know what their following wants.
Yeah, they're
And
know
I
the
think that's
developers out
debatable. I think sometimes they're out of touch in that area
there.
too.
Well, could be, but come on, this is by far their biggest IP.
And we'll get ready to go to the next. I don't want to spend too much on this.
Yeah.
But just bring Final Fantasy VII. Like, if it's like a 6 month, I don't think it's gonna. It still hurt them because people can say what they want. Timed exclusives matter if it's the right timed exclusive.
Yeah.
Because nobody's waiting a year for a game they're highly anticipating. Nobody. If you let's say Last of Us 2 was a third-party game, and Last of Us was a third-party game, but The Last of Us 2 is a timed exclusive, do you think that's going to be relevant, Kratos? I mean, J-Dub?
Listen, it may be as relevant as No Man's Sky was when it finally came to the
My
Xbox.
cousin's been playing that shit for 2 months. I don't know what the fuck. Apparently, it's good now. I didn't know.
Listen,
But I don't want to get too much into today.
That's the type of attention it would get. Here's one thing: as gamers and just as people in general, in this day and time, we have very short attention spans. So if a game does not get me day one, it's going to be hard to suck me back in down the road unless there's a dry spell. And we have everyone. I don't care who you are. There's such a big backlog of games that everyone has from this generation. It's rare to even find the time to do that. So,
all right, so get off the Final Fantasy. I think we came to an understanding that I think it's a little bit more serious. I don't think we disagree too much on the relevancy of this because I do understand your point that at the end of the day, it's, Microsoft. They might have missed the ball on like a social aspect and a platform representing JRPGs aspect, but from a business standpoint, it probably wasn't worth the money to invest to get it. So I definitely understand. I think we can understand on that. One thing I want to bring up real quick before we close is I wanted a quick, ha thing. Movie video games. You got the Spider-Mans, the Iron Mans. First off, I want to ask you is what besides Spider-Man for the PS4, because I know you're gonna say that. I want to take that chess piece off the board for I can even say this question because that's gonna be the first thing you say. What has been a good movie that has been turned into a video game?
And it's been very rare that we've had a good movie adoption onto a game. And even when it was good, the only reason it turned out good is because it wasn't based off of a movie.
Okay. I understand that.
I'm trying to think now.
Let's take away that if it's based off a movie. Let's just say that it was marketed to be the counterpart to that market to sell that movie and that game. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. Okay. Oh man, I'm having a hard time thinking now. I think
Wolverine's one of them.
That also had a movie.
That Wolverine game, I think that's one because it came out around the time that Origins did.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but it didn't necessarily just knock my socks off either.
But considering it was out at like the mid to beginning of there was a Captain America game.
I don't know. I mean, I would have the only thing I'm thinking of is those freaking Lego games.
No, we ain't even using those. I really think the only ones are Spider-Man games. Like on the real, like not even just the PS4 Spider-Man. Like we had a couple fun Spider-Mans.
Ninja Turtles?
I didn't know that there was a Captain America game, but Tyler says there was a Captain America game. I might have to look that up after the podcast.
I remember there being a Wolverine game and I don't remember a Captain America game.
All right, so let me play, a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Manipulation here real quick.
Tomb Raider.
Okay. Yeah, Tomb Raider. I would count Tomb Raider. Okay, let's say that EA came to you. It's like, we'll give you a blank check, creative control, make a Marvel, whatever kind of game that has a movie. What would you make and how would you make it and what direction would you go?
Okay, it wouldn't be a Marvel. But man, I mean, honestly, to be honest, I want a Ninja Turtles game.
I can see that.
I want a good one, not that Platinum Games Ninja Turtle. I want a good one. I want the one not like Battletoads, right?
You want one that's serious money and animations, everything put
Yes,
behind it.
I want the high end graphics that just sparkle like the next. Man, I want to see the Ninja Turtles where you can see their lips moving and eyes. Something like that would kick ass, and it could be like a beat 'em up type shooter, but the graphics would have to be realistic. The moves would have to be realistic. And if you think about Killer Instinct, right, and what they did with Battletoads on that particular game, the graphics, it had me scratching my heads why we ended up with the one with the Battletoads that we did end up with. It was
Now,
rightfully so. You give people the continuation of what you gave them. Like you could have used that whole graphics engine or whatever to create that.
you know what I would like to happen? I would like Sony to put their Last of Us effect. That's what I like to call it. But I would like Sony, and I know this is gonna sound really, really bizarre, but I would like them to make a Saw game, like another Saw game that has like let's say
Mm-hmm.
I get to choose this. I would give Naughty Dog a Saw game because
Wow.
I honestly think they can make a fucking retarded good Saw game. Like, imagine all the gore and shit in that. Like,
Yeah.
you're in a scenario where you have to escape. Like, did you play any of the other Saws?
I did, but I'm going to tell
They
you
were
this.
fun. They were fun, but they weren't really. They didn't have good talent behind them.
That's for one. Scary stuff like that is very niche. It's not mainstream. So you would have
I
to.
don't think that they would take it the scary route. I think they would take it the gory route. And
Yeah.
it would have scare tactics in it. Obviously, it is a horror movie, but I think if you went towards the game route, because the game wasn't really that scary.
I mean, Until Dawn, that's a similar.
That was a good game. I actually really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, that was it was great. The graphics was.
But I don't want them to make it like Until Dawn. Like I want it to be a survival game that's made like kind of like a Last of Us that has no guns in it. It's just you go from room to room. Well, not really room to room, but you're in this giant storyline that you've been caught by Jigsaw, and you have to escape his madness.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to, and this may be it's Manhunt or Warriors. I'd like to see it updated to those. Warriors was a movie, right? But it was also a good game too at the time on the PS2. You remember the Warriors?
Yeah, I remember vaguely.
Yeah,
I vaguely
movie from the 70s, 80s. But they remade a game out of it. It was pretty good.
I think because everyone says Xbox needs their own hero. I think they need to get Captain America. I think if they got the rights to that, made a good Captain America game.
What is Xbox mascot? Let me ask you that. What is the flagship?
Right now, I would say it's still Halo, Master Chief. Like, as sad as it is, like usually every gen, Microsoft comes up with their next flagship title.
Yeah,
and they just didn't get it this year.
Yeah,
and if they got something that they could build off of, they misstepped and they didn't either A, get the rights to that game, or B, they no longer have communication with the studio that made it.
That's true.
I think Rise is the closest thing they had a flagship this year.
That's true.
I mean, what else do you think could have been a flagship? I don't think Insomniac Games is good, but I don't think it was anywhere near flagship status. Maybe a sequel would have done it, but as far as their community, like I think a Rise done well, and not like it could look a little like it did, but it doesn't have to be that graphic intense because you have to leave power for mechanics. And I think that was one of the biggest issues. They wanted that game to look so phenomenal that they didn't have a lot of room to work under the hood for it. You know what I'm saying? Like the engine was just like hot, like literally the whole front of the car. Like they had to like move the engine a little bit to put anything on the sides.
True. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm really gonna be honest, and I'll see after this Gears 5 launch. But I'm starting to think that Forza is Xbox's flagship.
Forza Horizon, I could see that being.
And I'm only gonna say it's because it's the most consistent. Gears
but
and Halo,
I think Forza
they're downward. They have a downward trend. All of their games have started going like reviewing less and less and less and less.
I think that a flagship, I could see Horizon being that. But like part of me doesn't want to give it to that because there was a Horizon on last gen. But you know, I'm not a racer, so that I'm biased a little bit. I don't care about the racing genre. So to me, they didn't get a damn flagship.
Yeah.
I play Horizon because it's fun and my friends play it, but I don't really have a whole lot of time into it. But at the end of the day, I think Rise is the closest thing they had. I think that, you know, they didn't even have to do Rise to the Rome. They could have just did Rise to certain events in time.
Yeah.
That was like a mini versus all. Like they could have done one with Leonidas in the 300 and it would have been a Rise game.
Exactly.
And imagine that, J-Dub. Man, it's going to take a minute to get used to calling you J-Dub. Imagine a game on Xbox that's taken place in that scenario and you're fighting countless Persians. Like, it would be awesome. But, I mean, maybe, you know, there was rumors that they got the rights to the game and they're working on an exclusive. I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if Rise 2 was a launch title for the next Xbox, though. I will say that.
I don't know if that was the case, man. Something would have been leaked. I mean, what is Crytek even doing these days?
That's one of the biggest points.
Yeah. Microsoft didn't buy them. They had the opportunity to buy them, and they didn't buy them. So I don't know, man. It's a bunch of missed opportunities, but I don't know.
I don't see. These is not a flagship. I mean, part of me feels like that could have been a flagship title if they would have did it properly. For those of you that haven't seen, I did do a How to Fix Sea of Thieves. And, like, I wanted more events in that game. I wanted them to partner with Disney, put Pirates of the Caribbean events in there. I wanted them to make a PvP that was kind of like Rainbow Six Siege that had different ships and you had counters to ships. But they want everyone to have everything. And that's why the game didn't do well to me. I don't like it. I don't like a game that tells everyone that you can't. No matter how hard player A plays, player B gonna have the same shit player A has. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But you know, people did like that. People like that. So that's cool to them. See, these isn't for me. Yeah. But it is for a lot of people. And maybe that could have been something that could have been a flagship. But to me, a flagship title is something that elevated that platform to the next level.
Yes.
That's what happened to Halo. That's what happened to Gears.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. And then just think about this and make the comparison. What is Sony's flagship game
this year? I mean, this gen?
Period. What game defines?
I would say
in general.
I would say last year.
Name the games and then select the one that you think is the flagship.
I would say last gen, they invented 2 flagship titles, Uncharted and Last of Us, which is very rare. Companies usually don't have 2 lightning in the bottles like that. But
and then this generation,
Horizon and God of War.
Okay.
I don't really like Persona. That's not theirs. Maybe Ghost of Tsushima, but we haven't seen that. Do they own the company that makes Ghost of Tsushima? Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Yeah, that's theirs.
I mean, maybe if that's a good game, which I'm not really feeling what I've seen on it so far. I got to see more.
When I think of flagships, I look at this. Okay. The Last of Us could be a flagship. Gran Turismo has always been its flagship. What else? God of War could
That's a flagship, but there's not a flagship. Like, I think that's like that might be a little bit above a flagship.
Not flagship. We can keep going. We can keep naming games that potentially could be a flagship.
And you know what's
to say this is the character or this is the game that defines this generation. Sony has at least 5 or 6 of those.
They've done good this gen with making games, and there's no denying that. I think one of the biggest things that Microsoft needs to take root in this is, look, you need a console to make good games. You don't necessarily need a strong, like, if Microsoft if ReCore would have came out, looked amazing, had a great story, had great enemies, had great narrative, it would have took off. If Rise came out, Rise did decent for what it was. I can't really pick on Rise too much. So, you know, if they would have had more stuff like that, they would have been fine. Now, if people in the comment section that says if I see this a lot, and I want to address this real quick. If Xbox would have let Bungie make something, make Destiny, because that's what they wanted to make, Destiny would have been at this gen for their flagship. I don't necessarily think that. I think Destiny would have been something completely different if Microsoft had their hands in it.
I agree.
I think it would have been, at that time, it would have been like a Halo. It would run the same terms as Halo. I don't think it would have been this, couple year thing. It wouldn't have lasted this long. I don't think Microsoft would have wanted to invest in it for this long, because at that time, they weren't trying to do games of service.
That's true.
I personally think that if they kept Destiny and they kept Bungie, Microsoft might have fucked Destiny up. Destiny is nowhere in a great spot. It's nowhere in an amazing spot. It's in a good spot. It's not in a spot where, we think it's going to be around for 5 years, because it's Destiny. But at the end of the day, Activision helped Bungie put a foundation up that's working. People might not like Activision, but they're like, look, you got to monetize your game somehow if it's going to be long lasting. They're not wrong. They helped them put the foundation. The reason they separated is because Activision wanted to reach their hand in the cookie jar too much.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that they would have been that. I think that a ReCore 2 would have been good, because I feel like ReCore was a good foundation, but ReCore 2 had a good foundation where the house is solid, but everything in the house is made out of clay.
Yeah.
So, ReCore is one of those things. We ain't even going to try to do anything good. We're just going to try to do everything we can. I think Rise was, we're going to try to do one thing really good, but everything else average.
Yep.
That's where you see PlayStation come in good at. Because PlayStation's like, look, we know what our fans want. They showed us with Last of Us. They bought that. So we're not necessarily going to make every game Last of Us, but we're going to give you the same template, but we're going to switch it up every game, because that's what you guys want. And every game sells 10 million plus. There's a reason for that. Their fans like that kind of gameplay.
You're right.
But anyway, anything else that you wanted to say on this before we close out? Because my voice is legitly caving. I don't know why, but it's legitly going away.
Listen, I just hope this games as a service direction that Microsoft's going in will produce what the hardcore wants next generation. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully it does. Hopefully we will get a new flagship title, so we won't have to depend on Halo, Gears, and Forza. And Gears comes out in a month and a half. Hopefully it knocks it out the park. And then we can move on to, there's only 2 games this year that dropped from Xbox, and that's Crackdown 3 and that's and Gears. That's it. 2 games this year.
Yeah, and I do think Game Pass has a lot to say about that. I think that they want to space games because of Game Pass. They don't want to drop them all in one quarter or anything like that. I think the next gen has something to do with that too. I think they want to push shit back. I think that's one of the reasons E3 is so disappointing to me. Because if Sony would have showed up, I bet you would have been a completely different E3.
It would have, yeah. But at the same time,
at the end of the
Sony
day,
could have walked out. Let's face it. Sony could have walked out there, showed The Last of Us, or Ghost of Tsushima, or Death Stranding, and then they would have blew it out. Everybody would have been talking about that. Nobody,
Addict might not be playing Battletoads, so I'm gonna put that out there right now. I won't be playing the Cuphead DLC, but Battletoads look kind of whack to me. I'm sorry, I didn't play the original one. That's not a way to get me to play the
yeah.
Now Cuphead was fun. It was innovating. It was something different. I might play Battletoads. Someone might have to hit up my PayPal for that though.
Listen, what studio made Battletoads?
I don't know, but they need to be fired.
Wasn't Battletoads a Rare IP?
Yes.
But Rare's not making it.
Rare is overseeing it, but I don't think they're making it.
God, they had the template already in Killer Instinct. They had everything there. Jeez. Come on. So what is Rare making? What is Rare doing?
No one knows.
They spent all this money, right? They spent all this money for Rare.
This is the studio.
None of it has paid off.
Yeah, right there. Tiger King just put it up.
Okay.
So pretty much they're having like some people oversee what the hell they do. Rayer's overseeing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the game's probably not funded because go figure. But we'll see. Maybe the game comes out and it's fun at least. At the end of the day, I've always said gameplay over trumps everything. If a game
Okay.
comes out and it's fun, it'll overlook everything else.
Yeah.
Most of the time, a game comes out and it has one thing and not the other.
Listen,
Very few games have both.
I'm gonna be honest. I would rather them to continue to have funded Scalebound and use that crackdown money and got that thing out the door. And at least if they're gonna do,
I don't think that was an option though, to be honest with you. I don't think it was necessarily about can we, we're pulling the plug because we don't want to fund it. I think it was one of those things we're pulling the plug because people are taking too long and we don't see this relationship working out.
okay, but even still, this was like literally that was the Xbox most anticipated game of generation.
That could have been their flagship.
Yes, that could have been the face right there. Because guess what? It's a new IP. It's something new.
That Dante looking motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah, with the Beats headphones. And think about it. It was a Western RPG. So that in itself will give you more. Man, that's just that diversity that Xbox needs. Man, they need diversity in their game catalog. One thing about PlayStation, I could say, if you like JRPGs, they got them. If you like racers, they got them. If you like shooters, they got them. If you like story type games, they got them. If you like, just something for anything. I mean, there's just a variety of crap. If you like VR, if you like, dancing, if you like singing, there was just something for every single person. And that, with that diversity, hey man, that's what's leading to 100+ million people buying them.
And they got that template on how to make games. And once you have that, you pretty much have the keys to the kingdom.
Yep.
But we're gonna go ahead and close this out. I appreciate you coming back on, J-Dub. I actually tried to get Kid Smooth, and he low key elbowed me to the face and said I can't come on today. But it is what it is. Kid Smooth's busy. I think Kid Smooth's going through I don't care about YouTube phase, which we all go through that. But where can people find you, J-Dub?
Hey man, you guys can find me on Twitter at JDubCity16. You can also find me on YouTube at my channel J-Dub. And be sure to check that out. I always post links and stuff to my channel. I try to do some I like virtual racing, so I do a lot of that stuff. I'm starting to do some 5 to 10 minute videos talking about the topics of the day and topics that are interesting, just so you guys can have J-Dub's take on it. So check that out.
Yeah, my name's Addict. Go ahead and subscribe if you guys ain't subscribed. I'm sure everyone that here is probably subscribed. But I have a couple videos coming out. I actually have one. I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. So I'm gonna make a video on what it's like to be so overwhelmed by an MMO. It's not even funny. So look out for that. I have some reviews coming out in the next probably 2 or 3 months. I'm gonna review that Fire Emblem game. I don't know how long that's gonna take, because I hear it's a long ass game, but we'll definitely see how that goes. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Definitely hit that like button if you don't mind. Share. I like my content get to as many people as possible. Definitely go follow J-Dub on Twitter. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's always having some awesome content on there. And until next, The Addict Show. This is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here.
Peace.